Hey guys, welcome to another endgame analysis video. I'm trying out a new thumbnail style. Please comment down below what you think of it, give me some constructive criticism. Anyways, let's get into it. The two pawns, as a rule, ensure a simple win. When the white king is near, the win is straightforward. However, with the rook pawns, some problems may arise. First of all, connected pawns that mutually protect each other always win. Even when the white king is far away, the pawns run no danger, because if the b4 pawn is captured, then the a6 pawn will be outside of the enemy's reach, as we can see here with the rule of the square. If you do not understand or know of the rule of the square, please feel free to watch the first pawn endgame video in the top right corner. Black's only defense here consists of repeating the moves a6 and b5 to prevent the pawns from pushing forwards. So here we see king to a6, king to e3. White can calmly bring their king closer to aid the pawns in promotion. King to b5, king to d4, and king to a6, and now king to c5, taking away all of these squares for black. Black must retreat to the 7th rank, king to b7. Now we have b5, simply preventing any return to the 6th rank. King to a7, b6 with check, and king to b7. If here we were to see king to a6, then it is a simple win for white. After king to c6, black's only move is king takes a4, and then white's pawn will promote. So therefore, after king to b7 here, we have king to b5, king to a8, a6, king to b8, and king to c6. Note that it is also possible here to simply play b7 and then win with the opposition, forcing the enemy king either back to here, where you can simply run up beside your pawn and promote, or with the opposition forcing them away, where you can take control of these critical squares in front of the a pawn, and also after moving to a7 you'll have the critical squares of the b7 pawn. So that is also winning, of course. King to c6, however, was played. King to a8, b7 check, king to b8. Note that after king to a7, white simply plays king to c7 and will promote on the next turn. Therefore, after king to b8 instead, we have a7 check, sacrificing the a pawn, but allowing white's king to play to c7 and promote the pawn. If you don't want to sacrifice the pawn, and instead play, for example, king to d6 here, this is equally winning. Black's only move is to go to a7, and then king to c7 simply promotes the pawn. As doubled pawns do not protect each other, they require the help of their king. Also, in this case, there are some traps that need to be avoided. We start with king to c5, king to b7, and king to b5. Here, a serious mistake would be b5, because after this, a win would be no longer possible. If you want to see the rest of a hypothetical game after b5, king to b8, king to c6, king to c8, b7 check, king to b8, and here white has no move except to leave the pawn or make a stalemate. King to c5, king takes b7, b6, king to b8, king to c6, king to c8, b7 check, and king to b8. And here we have that same position as seen many, many times in the king and one pawn versus king video. So here, after king to b5, we have king to b8 and king to a6. Though king to c6 here still wins, king to a6 is much more consistent and better since it eliminates the possibility of a defense by stalemates in the corner. In such situations, it is almost always better to leave more room to the enemy king, in this case so that we don't accidentally stalemate. King to a8, b5, making use of our extra pawn's tempo. King to b8, b7, king to c7, king to a7, and white will promote the pawn into a queen. In the more complex pawn endings, sometimes it is important to know whether two isolated passed pawns can win without the support of the king. In this situation, we are helped out by the rule of the common square, which was formulated by Studenecki in 1939. The common square is a square the length of the side of the passed pawns. The rule states that if the common square comprises the 8th rank, one of the pawns will queen without the help of the enemy king. Here we can see the common square of the b and d pawns does not comprise the 8th rank, and therefore they will need their king to help. So here, after king to d6, white plays b6, indirectly defending the d5 pawn, because if black takes, then the b7 pawn will simply promote. So after king to d7, the only move, white plays king to f3, simply bringing the king in to help. King to d6, once again, this is the only move. If the king moves, of course, away, then the b pawn will simply promote, as the king will be outside of its square. And if king to d8, then we have d6, and now the common square of the b and d pawns comprises the 8th rank, and they will win easily on their own. We can see, for example, after king to d7, b7, king takes d6. This is the only move, as the d and b pawns work very well together to block the king out of the path of the b pawn, which will promote. After king takes, b8 equals queen. So therefore, after king to f3, black must play king to d6. We have king to e4, simply bring the king in, king to d7, king to e5, king to c8, and d6. Here we already know the winning strategy. However, if you would like to see it again, king to b7, d7, and now the pawns are working together to block the king out of the way of the d pawn, which will promote. Or if black plays king to d7, we have b7, and it's the same thing. The pawns working very, very well together to prevent the black king from coming in the way of the b pawn's promotion. If black tried something like king to d8, we simply have b7, and the same happens. The pawns are blocking the black king out of the pawn's promotion. Let's consider a position where the pawns are 2 files apart. When the pawns are on the 5th rank, the common square includes the 8th rank, so they can win on their own. Here, with black to move, we have king to b7 to d6 and a6. a6 indirectly defends the d5 pawn, because as we've seen before, if the black king takes, then the a6 pawn square will be out of reach of the king, and it will simply queen. Therefore, king to c7, and now d6 check. If the king takes d6, then white simply queens the a7 pawn, but there is no other move. King takes d6, and then a7 simply wins. If black tries something like king to b8, trying to stay within the reach of both pawns, white simply advances one pawn after the other, and then promotes one into a queen. The common square ends on the 7th rank. This means that the 2 pawns cannot reach the promotion square without the aid of their king. However, in this case, the white king is too far away to help. Black's correct drawing technique is to play a5, going after one of the pawns and stopping its advance. After d5, which indirectly defends the a5 pawn, because after king takes a5 and then d6, the white pawn will promote, as the black king cannot enter its square. Therefore, after d5, taking a4 is a mistake, and black plays king to b6. An excellent move, going after the hole on c5 so that it can attack the d5 pawn. Here, white's only hope, a5, doesn't work, because after king takes a5 and then d6, the king can enter the white pawn's square and will prevent its promotion. So therefore, if white plays simply a waiting move, for example, king to b2, then king to c5 goes after and will win this pawn. After a5 and king takes d5, then a6, the black king can enter the white pawn's square and prevent its promotion. Here, even d6 doesn't work, because after king to c6, king to b2, king takes d6, king to c3, king to c6, king to b4, and king to b6, the black king has the opposition, the direct opposition, and white has no way to promote this rook pawn. Alright guys, thank you very, very much for watching all the way to the end. I'm sorry if this one was a bit longer than usual. I like to try and keep my endgame analysis videos under 10 minutes, but I also wanted to give you guys as many examples as possible in a reasonable time frame. Next video on the endgame analysis playlist will be king and one pawn versus king and one pawn. Even though that may sound dull and very, very draw-ish, it does lead to some very interesting positions where one side's opposition or positional superiority can even turn it into a win. Anyways, I'll see you next time.